Good morning, Nick. How's it going? Welcome to the Money Clinic. Happy Thursday. How have things been with you over the last 7 days?
Yeah, all's been good, Conor. The markets have been a little bit quiet, I suppose, after the last week or so. Everybody's waiting for the next move in the market, be that up, be that down. So we're trading in quite a narrow range. No real momentum, no real commitment. Obviously, the Biden stimulus package was signed through. Everybody's talking the market up as if there is no limit to where this can go. I think the thing that I personally find a bit worrying is when economists, when everybody and analysts, they all start to agree, it tends to signal the end of the rally. And that's probably what I'm looking out for more than anything else. I think we spoke last week about, possibly reducing the size of your portfolio or equities that people are holding. When everybody's in agreement, there's always a bit of a hiccup coming, unfortunately. But earnings start next week in the US. Everybody expects there to be a significant improvement on last year. We just have to wait and see, really.
Yeah, this is a sort of a business 10-minute chat that we've been having now for a couple of months. But I think it's really important that people understand what's going on globally in a macro level and then figure out how that might impact their own business. And one of the things that I've been trying to track in the last sort of 12 months, even on my own podcast, is this what's called a monetary revolution, right? And Stephanie Kelton has written about this, the American economist in Modern Monetary Theory, MMT. And I was listening to the David McWilliams podcast yesterday, where Paul McCulley, the former head of PIMCO, was on speaking about this. And what he's basically encouraging countries to do, and I think Biden seems to be ticking all the boxes from a democratic point of view at the minute, this huge stimulus package, which isn't ending actually. So he is going to continue spending trillions of dollars. And the new theory in MMT would support that. I'm just sort of wondering, how do you see this as a trader? Like you've been trading for 30 odd years. You've seen all of this before. Maybe you haven't seen what's happening now before, because what McCulley is saying is that this hasn't happened since the Roosevelt years of the 30s in America. And I'm just wondering what your take on this is right now.
Yeah, it's definitely unprecedented. I think you've got a situation where Biden, because of the way that the voting went in the election, he's got a great opportunity to do whatever he wants to do. So if you get a certain amount of accord rather than discord amongst the political parties, you've got that ability to push more through. And I think we spoke about this off air just before we started this. There's a great opportunity for people to spend, governments to spend, get the infrastructures right. I mean, I think we can all come up with a list as long as your arm of things that are wrong in the countries that we all live in. And I think there is that opportunity, and there's definitely an appetite for it at the moment. Obviously, it means you're printing more money, and if you control your own currency, you can do that to a certain degree. If you don't have to borrow from other organisations or other countries as well, that makes that a bit easier. But there is definitely an opportunity. I think everybody's in agreement there. But you need that political accord as well as that ability to be able to, print your own money for a certain period of time.
For me, it's all really then about political ideology, as I've tried to understand how this works. In the UK, you've got the Conservative ideology, you've got the Labour ideology. In the States, you've got the Republicans and the Democrats, and it's trying to then figure that out. It is complex, but it's a worthwhile exercise, I think, for business owners to try and have some level of understanding of what's going on out there. I wanted to touch then, if we move on to the Mr. Bill Wang. Again, I'm not sure where he is this week. I've no idea where the guy is. But the outworkings of the Archios Capital debacle I see in the last 7 days, where the two heads of Credit Suisse have taken the blame and are now going to exit the company. But I've been thinking about this, and I'm thinking about in Ireland the Davy scandal as well, that sort of evaporated. We don't, they just sort of drift off, and there's no learnings out of any of these scandals. I mean, this guy was done for fraud. He had a terrible past, and he was able to build up a position of $50 odd billion. And, it just seems to me to be happening over and over again. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this. And I know we've spoken about it before, but I do think it's important that we try and improve our understanding of what's going on.
Yeah, I look. Obviously, I worked in the industry for a short period of time, and I've observed it for a longer period of time. I think the unfortunate thing for me, Conor, is that where you have an industry, and like every industry is based on profit and being profitable, but in the world of banking, it's a far more exaggerated example. The numbers are bigger. The potential for profit is a lot bigger than in a lot of other industries, and it's that risk taking part of it is probably a little bit more dynamic, I would imagine. But I think what you've got, whenever I look at the industry, and I don't have anything, I always enjoyed my time when I was working within the industry, and I've always enjoyed my time outside of it as well. But I think you have a culture, unfortunately, that's ingrained, and it's passed down from generation to generation. And people have often asked, when are we going to change the culture within banking? And regulators and governments have tried to do it for many, many years, but it always, I think sometimes you get a bit of piecemeal change, but you don't really get a fundamental change. And that's because sometimes, when people are paid these bonuses that promote short-termism, it's about how can I generate my bonus now, today? My bonus is being paid in 2 months' time. How am I going to get my numbers up so that I can get that big fat salary? And Bill Hwang is a great example of that, because the type of risk that the banks were taking on wasn't commensurate with the level of income that they were making from his particular business or his trades that he was putting through. There was good fees, and they were all competing for those fees, and everybody wanted his business. But it was that short-termism. How is Nick's or Conor's bonus going to get paid, rather than the good of the company or the good of the industry?
But I think what's really depressing then for me is that, if you look at the Davy scandal in Ireland, for example, where these guys shafted an investor from Belfast completely, which is fraudulent. It's fraud. And it appears that the most recent correspondence I'm seeing coming out of the Irish Central Bank is that there's going to be no prosecutions. Now that might change, but if that is the position, it sets a seriously bad example for the industry. If the man in the street seen what Davy's done to the guy from Belfast, but there seems to be potentially no repercussions other than these guys exiting the company with a huge check. So it just sets a bad tone. I want to finish up. We've 1 minute and 45 seconds talking about something you're very passionate about. You've spoken about this a lot in the last number of weeks on your own channels, and I've mentioned it yesterday actually on LinkedIn. It's about the art of communication. Successful people I know are really good at communicating. And from the business perspective, my encouragement is always for people to nurture and try and develop that skill set. Thoughts on that in 60 seconds, if you don't mind?
Yeah, well, I think we probably need to spend a little bit more time with it, maybe next week. But I think it's the most powerful thing that you can do. Like I've been in situations where I was diagnosed with cancer. I didn't know how I was going to cope. I didn't know what questions to ask. I think if you look at the world of banking, you look at the world of medicine, law, and those sort of situations, I think when you find yourself in one of those situations, you immediately become overwhelmed. You feel inferior to the person that you're talking to. You don't know what questions to ask. And you often come out of that meeting, think, well, I wish I did this, or I wish I asked that. And I think that's sometimes why you need that expertise. People who are used to being in these sort of situations, debt is probably the most overwhelming situation that people can find themselves in, and trying to get to that solution is very, very difficult. But if people were able to communicate better, ask the right questions, and ask for help. We've spoken about it so many times over the last few weeks, and I do think we should spend some more time talking about it, because there is a path through problems that people are facing.
Well, let's pick that up next week. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself. I will speak to you again next week. Have a great weekend, Nick. Thank you.
Take care, mate.